Namaste Nrsimhaya. It's offering respect to you, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is man-lion, Nrsimha. Namaste Nrsimhaya. Usually sung as Namaste, but actually should be Namaste Nrsimhaya. Prahlada hlada dayine. Prahlad means full of joy, and that joy, the giver of joy to Prahlad is Nrsimha. Why is he joyful? Not because he's the son of Hiranyakashipu and can enjoy everything in the universe, but because he's infused with the Hladini Shakti. Halad, same word, of the same root. He's infused with the bliss of Nrsimha. Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha, the chest of Hiranyakashipu. Shila, which is just, not Shila by the way, Shila is another word which means good character, but Hiranyakashipu didn't have good character. It means character, usually good character. Shila means stone, just like Shalagram Shila, not Shalagram Shila, as it's sometimes mispronounced. Tanka means, Tanka Nakala, Naka. By his nails, Naka, which are like a chisel. He broke, a stone can be broken by a chisel. You know what the word chisel is in Tamil? It's for breaking stones. You hold this and smash it hit it with a hammer and the stone gets broken. Shila Tankanakara Ito Nrsimha. Here is Nrsimha. Parato, elsewhere there is also. Here he is, there he is. Here is Nrsimha, there is Nrsimha. Yato yato yami, tataha Nrsimha. Wherever I go, there is Nrsimha. Nrsimha is everywhere. Bahir Nrsimha, he's outside. Hridaya Nrsimha, he's inside, within the heart. Bahir Nrsimha, Hridaya Nrsimha. Nrsimhamadim, to that original personality of Godhead, Nrsimha. Aham praprati, I surrender. This, in the last line, please note, it's Nrsimhamadim. This is how the compiler of the Puranas, it's from Nrsimha Purana, this chant. Either Vyasadeva or a devotee under his guidance has written Nrsimhamadim. So often it's sung Nrsimhamadim, but it's not written like that. So better to stick to what is given by Shastra. There's technically no harm, inasmuch as he's called Nrsimha or Narasimha. Nrit and Nara most being man, but as it's given like that, Nrsimha, better to chant it as Nrsimha. So now we'll chant Dashavata Stotram, which is on page 97 in the English book. I was told it wasn't in the Tamil book. In air code I was told there weren't any other songs. Could have sung that. It's in the Tamil songbook also. Please tell us which page it's on in the Tamil book for the benefit of the Tamil speakers. Say it out loud for the Tamil speakers.
Which page?
This describes briefly the Dashavata, the 10 forms of the Lord. Of course, there are many more forms. Keshava Dhrita, Keshava. O Keshava, who has taken the form, this form, that form, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, etc. Interestingly, some people say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced this idea that Krishna is the original form, and actually Vishnu is the original form, but we see from the Dashavata Stotram that before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jayadev, he also described Keshavadhrita. There's a new songbook. Where have they put that? I can't find it in here. Well, I guess I can read the English version. Here it is. Okay, please read the translation in English and Tamil slowly, and I'll be with you shortly. Maybe you can pass it around.
O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a fish, all glories to you. You easily acted as a boat in the form of a giant fish, just to give protection to the Vedas, which had become immersed in the turbulent sea of devastation. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a tortoise, all glories to you. In this incarnation as a divine tortoise, the great Mandara mountain rests upon your gigantic back as a pivot for churning the ocean of milk. From holding up the huge mountain, a large scar-like depression is put in your back, which has become most glorious. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which had become immersed in the Garbhodaka ocean at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a half man, half lion, all glories to you. Just as one can easily crush a wasp between one's fingernails, so in the same way, the body of the wasp-like demon Hiranyakashipu has been ripped apart by the wonderful pointed nails on your beautiful lotus hands. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a dwarf Brahmana, all glories to you. O wonderful dwarf, by your massive steps you deceive King Bali, and by the Ganges water that has emanated from the nails of your lotus feet, you deliver all living beings within this world. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Bhrigupati, Parashurama, all glories to you. At Kurukshetra, you bathed the earth in the rivers of blood from the bodies of the demoniac Kshatriyas that you have slain. The sins of the world are washed away by you, and because of you, people are relieved from the blazing fire of material existence. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Ramachandra, all glories to you. In the battle of Lanka, you destroy the 10-headed demon Ravana and distribute his heads as a delightful offering to the presiding deities of the 10 directions, headed by Indra. This action was long desired by all of them, who were much harassed by this monster. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Balaram, the wielder of the plough, all glories to you. On your brilliant white body, you wear garments the color of a fresh blue rain cloud. These garments are colored like the beautiful dark hue of the river Yamuna, who feels great fear due to the striking of your plowshare. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Buddha, all glories to you. O Buddha of compassionate heart, you decry the slaughtering of poor animals performed according to the rules of Vedic sacrifice. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Kalki, all glories to you. You appear like a comet and carry a terrifying sword for bringing about the annihilation of the wicked barbarian man at the end of the Kali Yuga. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed these 10 different forms of incarnation, all glories to you. O readers, please hear this hymn of the poet Jayadev, which is most excellent, an awarder of a happiness, a bestower of auspiciousness, and is the best thing in this dark world.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nrsimhaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. Which chapter? It's Prahlad pacifies Lord Nrsimha Dev with prayers, chapter 9. Translation, and I'll just read the translation today. So, translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Generally, the professional Bhagavatam speakers, they leave out all the philosophy, but along with the well-known stories in the Bhagavatam, in every story there's also a lot of philosophy in the form of prayer or commentary by Shukadev. Or here we have Prahlad Maharaj pacifying Lord Nrsimha Dev with prayers. Prahlad is a major speaker in the Bhagavatam in the sense that many of the verses that appear are spoken by him. If we see the speakers of various verses within the Bhagavatam, we'll find that Prahlad is, of course there are many, many speakers, so it doesn't constitute a major portion of the Bhagavatam in itself, less than 5%, but he is one of the speakers to whom most or more verses have been attributed. That's not a very good way to put it. More verses that he speaks are included in the Bhagavatam than those of many others. He must be in the top 10. Many, many verses spoken by Prahlad. So, we'll read this chapter. I'll just read the translations. This is these prayers, this chapter occurs after Nrsimha has come. He's killed Hiranyakashipu, and he's still angry. His anger didn't die out very quickly. You'd think that his anger should die out because the cause of his anger, namely Hiranyakashipu, had been killed. And you'd think it'd be a time for jubilation. Just like in a fight, in a boxing match, when the opponent is knocked out, then the winner has won. And it's a time for jumping up and down and shouting and celebrating. But Nrsimha was still angry. His anger was not so easily pacified. Even he'd killed Hiranyakashipu, he'd killed thousands, maybe millions of Hiranyakashipu's associates, and still he was angry. And so the demigods thought that, well, let's try to pacify him, but they were not, he was still angry. They didn't dare to go before him. They were thinking maybe he's angry at us now, maybe he'll rip us apart too, because anger is very dangerous. Krishna himself warns against it in Bhagavad-gita, that if you become angry, then you become bewildered. So maybe Nrsimha, who's come to save us, he'll kill us also. Nrsimha was angry at Hiranyakashipu for being a demon. But the demigods have the same seed of material desire in their heart that manifested as a demoniac tree in the form of Hiranyakashipu. But the same seed of worldly desire is there in the heart of the demigods. The difference is that they are pious rascals. They have material desires, but they are pious. So they're somewhere in between. They're not complete demons, but they are somewhat. The demoniac propensity is always within their heart. Therefore, who is a demigod today can be a demon tomorrow. Kabu Dev, Kabu Daita, this Jagadananda Pandit says. And he says, sometimes the conditioned soul is a demigod, sometimes he's a demon. So they were also afraid. But Prahlad wasn't afraid. Even though he's born in a family of demons, he wasn't afraid to go before Nrsimha. Nrsimha had appeared specifically for the sake of Prahlad. So Prahlad pacifies the Lord with prayers. The great sage Narad Muni continued. Narad is this story of Prahlad, of the appearance of Nrsimha, is narrated by Narada to anyone? Yudhishthira Maharaj. Okay. And Yudhishthira had inquired. Actually, Parikshit had inquired. What did he inquire? Anyone else? Anyone else? Damodara.
Why it appears that Lord is...
It appears that the Supreme Lord is partial. He favors the demigods. And in reply, Shukadev recited this story of how Jaya and Vijay, it's already partially spoken, and how Jaya and Vijay fell is described in the third canto of Bhagavatam, along with the killing of Hiranyaksha, and then this killing of Hiranyakashipu is described. And it's also mentioned about Shishupal. Anyway, you have to read it to get the whole thing. So, the great saint Narad Muni continued. The demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other great demigods, dared not come before the Lord, who at that time was extremely angry. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmiji, was requested to go before the Lord by all the demigods present, who because of fear could not do so. They thought, well, we can't, but at least Lakshmi can, because she's the wife of the Lord. You won't be angry with her. But even she had never seen such a wonderful and extraordinary form of the Lord, and thus she could not approach him. Of course, Lakshmi is the eternal consort of Nrsimha. So this would need some description, that here Madhvacharya resolves this apparent discrepancy by quoting from the Brahmanda Purana, that being inspired by Leela Shakti, she could not recognize his form. That is the job of the acharyas. Shastra yuktiye sunipun. They're expert in harmonizing the apparent contradictions in Shastra. Thereafter, Lord Brahma requested Prahlad Maharaj, who was standing very near him. And because the demigods, they'd tried to pacify the Lord, but they were not able to do it. Who was standing very near him. That comes afterward, right? My dear son, Lord Nrsimha Dev is extremely angry at your demoniac father. Please go forward and appease the Lord. It's almost like Nrsimha Dev wanted him to come, Hiranyakashipu to come back to life. He'd rip him to pieces again, and then rip him to pieces again, like some hells are described, where your body is thrown down from a great height, or it's ripped apart by nasty animals of hell, and then it all comes together again, and then you're ripped apart again. Anyone want to go to hell? Narada Muni continued, O king, although the exalted devotee Prahlad Maharaj was only a little boy, he accepted Lord Brahma's words. He gradually proceeded toward Lord Nrsimha Dev and fell down to offer his respectful obeisances with folded hands. When Lord Nrsimha Dev saw the small boy Prahlad Maharaj prostrated at the soles of his lotus feet, he became most ecstatic in affection toward his devotee. Raising Prahlad, the Lord placed his lotus hand upon the boy's head because his hand is always ready to create fearlessness in all of his devotees. By the touch of Lord Nrsimha Dev's hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head, Prahlad was completely freed of all material contaminations and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed. Therefore he at once became transcendentally situated, and all the symptoms of ecstasy became manifest in his body, his heart filled with love and his eyes with tears, and thus he was able to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. Prahlad Maharaj fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Nrsimha Dev with full attention in complete trance. With a fixed mind he began to offer prayers in love with a faltering voice. Prahlad Maharaj prayed, how is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words, although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness. Then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. Prahlad Maharaj continued, one may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. If a Brahmana has all 12 of the Brahminical qualifications, as they are stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, but is not a devotee and is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog-eater, but who has dedicated everything, mind, words, activities, wealth and life to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such a Brahmana, because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so-called Brahmana in a position of false prestige cannot purify even himself. Yeah, let it go. No. So remove this book. Or move it, don't remove it. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. Therefore, although I was born in a demoniac family, I may without a doubt offer prayers to the Lord with full endeavor as far as my intelligence allows. Anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified of material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories. O my Lord, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma are sincere servants of your Lordship, who are situated in a transcendental position. Therefore they are not like us, Prahlad and his father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Your appearance in this fearsome form is your pastime for your own pleasure. Such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. My dear Lord Nrsimha Dev, please therefore cease your anger now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed. Since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake, all the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. My Lord, who are never conquered by anyone, I am certainly not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue, your eyes bright like the sun, or your frowning eyebrows. I do not fear your sharp, pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high wedge-like ears. Nor do I fear your tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies. You got lost over there, it seems. What about these ladies? I think they need Tamil translation also. That's good. They are reading from the book, but they got lost. Got lost in ecstasy. Stunned on hearing the qualities of Nrsimha Dev. Maybe. We're now on I'm about to read text 16 of chapter 9. Okay? What about these ladies? They all want to hear. Okay. Text 16. O most powerful, insurmountable Lord, who are kind to the fallen souls, I have been put into the association of demons as a result of my activities, and therefore I am very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditioned life? O Great One, O Supreme Lord, because of combination with pleasing and displeasing circumstances and because of separation from them, one is placed in a most regrettable position within heavenly or hellish planets, as if burning in a fire of lamentation. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Therefore, I think that the only remedy is to engage in your service. Kindly instruct me in such service. This is what the Bhagavad reciters should teach. They won't teach, they're just cheating people. It's a very, a most pertinent instruction. Pertinent means to the point. O my Lord Nrsimha Dev, by engaging in your transcendental loving service in the association of devotees who are liberated, souls, hangsas, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant the glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. Balasya neha sharanang pitaro Nrsimha. My Lord Nrsimha Dev, O Supreme, because of a bodily conception of life, embodied souls neglected and not cared for you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. means without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. A boat cannot save you. Drowning in the ocean, go on the boat and then slip on the boat and break your neck and die. It's quite possible. This general pattern in Second World War, general fighting in Africa and Germany, finished the war alive and shortly after the war died in a car crash. He was in the middle of all these battles with weapons flying, people trying to kill him, and then he died in a car crash. Yasmin yato yahi yena na yasya yasmat yasmai yata yad. All these different cases are given here in this verse. My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion and ignorance. Everyone from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, the matter due to which they work, the goal of life which they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and energetic are identical, all of them are but manifestations of you. Yes, some things have to get lost in the translation. Here all that comes up in other verses also, all different cases, grammatical cases. Yasmin yato yahi yena cha yasya yasmat yasmai yata. It can't come through in English. So, verse 21, O Lord, O Supreme Eternal, by expanding your plenary portion, you have created the subtle bodies of the living entities through the agency of your external energy, which is agitated by time. Thus the mind entraps the living entity in unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by the Vedic directions of karma kanda, fruitive activity, and the 16 elements. Who can get free from the entanglement unless he takes shelter at your lotus feet? Is the kind of verse that Suhotra Swami loved to comment on. It's like the whole Vedas is packed in there. My dear Lord, O Supreme Great, you have created this material world of 16 constituents, but you are transcendental to their material qualities. In other words, these material qualities are under your full control and you are never conquered by them. Therefore, the time element is your representation. My Lord, O Supreme, no one can conquer you. As for me, however, I am being crushed by the wheel of time, and therefore I surrender fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet. My dear Lord, people in general want to be elevated to the higher planetary systems for a long duration of life, opulence and enjoyment. But I have seen all of these through the activities of my father. When my father was angry and he laughed sarcastically at the demigods, they were immediately vanquished simply by seeing the movements of his eyebrows. Yet my father, who was so powerful, has now been vanquished by you within a moment. My dear Lord, now I have complete experience concerning the worldly opulence, mystic power, longevity, and other material pleasures enjoyed by all living entities, from Lord Brahma down to the ant. As powerful time, you destroy them all. Therefore, because of my experience, I do not wish to possess them. My dear Lord, I request you to place me in touch with your pure devotee and let me serve him as a sincere servant. In this material world, every living entity desires some future happiness, which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is water in the desert? Or in other words, where is happiness in this material world? As for this body, what is its value? It is merely a source of various diseases. The so-called philosophers, scientists, and politicians know this very well, but nonetheless they aspire for temporary happiness. Happiness is very difficult to obtain, but because they are unable to control their senses, they run after the so-called happiness of the material world and never come to the right conclusion. O my Lord, O Supreme, because I was born in a family full of the hellish material qualities of passion and ignorance, what is my position? And what is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was never offered even to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? You never put your lotus hand upon their heads, but you have put it upon mine. Unlike an ordinary living entity, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, the favorable and the unfavorable, because for you there is no conception of higher and lower. Nonetheless, you offer your benediction according to the level of one's service, exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desire and makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant, Narada Muni, kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? My Lord, O unlimited reservoir of transcendental qualities, you have killed my father Hiranyakashipu and saved me from his sword. He had said very angrily, if there is any supreme controller other than me, let him save you. I shall now sever your head from your body. Therefore I think that both in saving me and in killing him, you have acted just to prove true the words of your devotee. There is no other cause. My dear Lord, you alone manifest yourself as the entire cosmic manifestation, for you existed before the creation. You exist after the annihilation, and you are the maintainer between the beginning and the end. All this is done by your external energy through actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. Therefore, whatever exists externally and internally is you alone. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the entire cosmic creation is caused by you, and the cosmic manifestation is an effect of your energy. Although the entire cosmos is but you alone, you keep yourself aloof from it. The conception of mine and yours is certainly a type of illusion, Maya, because everything is an emanation from you, and is therefore not different from you. Indeed, the cosmic manifestation is non-different from you, and the annihilation is also caused by you. This relationship between your Lordship and the cosmos is illustrated by the example of the seed and the tree, or the subtle cause and the gross manifestation. Yeah, this is heavy stuff, so try to keep tuned in. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, after the annihilation, the creative energy is kept in you, who appear to sleep with half-closed eyes. Actually, however, you do not sleep like an ordinary human being, for you are always in a transcendental stage beyond the creation of the material world, and you always feel transcendental bliss. As Karna Dakashayi Vishnu, you thus remain in your transcendental status, not touching material objects. Although you appear to sleep, this sleeping is distinct from sleeping in ignorance. This cosmic manifestation, the material world, is also your body. This total lump of matter is agitated by your potent energy known as Kala Shakti, and thus the three modes of material nature are manifested. You awaken from the bed of Shesha, Ananta, and from your navel a small transcendental seed is generated. It is from this seed that the lotus flower of the gigantic universe is manifested, exactly as a banyan tree grows from a small seed. From that great lotus flower, Brahma was generated, but Brahma certainly could see nothing but the lotus. Therefore, thinking you to be outside, Lord Brahma dove into the water and attempted to find the source of the lotus for 100 years. He could find no trace of you, however, for when a seed fructifies, the original seed cannot be seen. Text 35. Lord Brahma, who is celebrated as Atma Yoni, having been born without a mother, was struck with wonder. Thus he took shelter of the lotus flower, and when he had been purified after undergoing severe austerities for many hundreds of years, he could see that the cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was spread throughout his own body and senses, just as aroma, although very subtle, is perceived in the earth. Lord Brahma could then see you possessing thousands and thousands of faces, feet, heads, hands, thighs, noses, ears, and eyes. You are very nicely dressed, being decorated and bedecked with varieties of ornaments and weapons. Seeing you in the form of Lord Vishnu, your symptoms and form being transcendental, your legs extending from the lower planets, Lord Brahma achieved transcendental bliss. My dear Lord, when you appeared as Hayagriva with the head of a horse, you killed 2 demons known as Madhu and Kaitab, who were full of the modes of passion and ignorance. Then you delivered the Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma. For this reason, all the great saints accept your forms as transcendental, untinged by material qualities. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saint, a demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as Triyuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. That important line is there. Chandakalo yad abhavas Triyugo ta satvam. My dear Lord of the Vaikuntha planets, where there is no anxiety, my mind is extremely sinful and lusty, being sometimes so-called happy and sometimes so-called distressed. My mind is full of lamentation and fear, and it always seeks more and more money. Thus it has become most polluted and is never satisfied in topics concerning you. I am therefore most fallen and poor. In such a status of life, how shall I be able to discuss your activities? My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way I am certainly embarrassed. My dear Lord, you are always transcendently situated on the other side of the river of death, but because of the reactions of our own activities we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering, and by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. This and the following 2 verses are important for those who want to preach Krishna consciousness. The Sanskrit of the verse just read. Naivodvijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyas tadvira gayana mahamrita magna chittaha sho chetato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahito vimurhan. Then text 44. Prayena deva munayasva vimukti kama monang charanti vijanena parartha nishthaha naitan vihaya kriparnan vimamuksha eko nanyam tvadasya sharanang brahmato nupashe. My dear Lord Nrsimha Dev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance. Not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mauna Vrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. Yan maithunadi grihamedhi sukhang hituchang kandu yanena karaya iva dukha dukham tripyanti neha kripana bahudukha bhaja kanduti vanvanasijang vishaheta dhiraha. Sex life is compared to rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedis. I mentioned that to you this morning. This is described in Bhagavatam. If you scratch, it gets worse. So this is the verse. Grihamedis, so-called grihastas who have no spiritual knowledge. Last night, actually. That think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 10 prescribed methods on the path to liberation: to remain silent, not to speak to anyone, to observe vows, to amass all kinds of Vedic knowledge, to undergo austerities, to study the Vedas and other Vedic literatures, to execute the duties of varnashram dharma, to explain the Shastras, to stay in a solitary place, to chant mantras silently, and to be absorbed in trance. These different methods for liberation are generally only a professional practice and means of livelihood for those who have not conquered their senses. Because such persons are falsely proud, these procedures may not be successful. By authorized Vedic knowledge, one can see that the forms of cause and effect in the cosmic manifestation belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for the cosmic manifestation is His energy. Both cause and effect are nothing but energies of the Lord. Therefore, O my Lord, just as a wise man considering cause and effect can see how fire pervades wood, those engaged in devotional service understand how you are both the cause and effect. O Supreme Lord, you are actually the air, the earth, fire, sky and water. You are the objects of sense perception, the life airs, the five senses, the mind, consciousness and false ego. Indeed, you are everything, subtle and gross. The material elements and anything expressed either by the words or by the mind are nothing but you. Neither the three modes of material nature, sattva-gun, rajogun and tamogun, nor the predominating deities controlling these three modes, nor the five gross elements, nor the mind, nor the demigods, nor the human beings can understand your lordship, for they are all subject to birth and annihilation. Considering this, the spiritually advanced have taken to devotional service. Such wise men hardly bother with Vedic study. Indeed, they engage themselves in practical devotional service. Therefore, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all persons to whom prayers are offered, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because without rendering 6 kinds of devotional service unto you, offering prayer, dedicating all the results of activities, worshipping you, working on your behalf, always remembering your lotus feet, and hearing about your glories, who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahamsas? The great Saint Narada said, thus Lord Nrsimha was pacified by the devotee Prahlad Maharaj with prayers offered from the transcendental platform. The Lord gave up his anger, and being very kind to Prahlad, who was offering prostrated obeisances, he spoke as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Prahlad, most gentle one, best of the family of the Asuras. Asurotama, best of the Asuras. All good fortune unto you. I am very much pleased with you. It is my pastime to fulfill the desires of all living beings, and therefore you may ask from me any benediction that you desire to be fulfilled. My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me. But for one who has seen or pleased me, has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. My dear Prahlad, you are very fortunate. Please know from me that those who are very wise and highly elevated try to please me in the different modes of mellows, for I am the only person who can fulfill all the desires of everyone. Narad Muni said, Prahlad Maharaj was the best person in the family of Asuras who always aspire for material happiness. Nonetheless, although allured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who offered him all benedictions for material happiness, because of his unalloyed Krishna consciousness, he did not want to take any material benefit for sense gratification. So, let's go to Prahlad Maharaj, one of his prayers which is featured in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, which is written on the board. Can everyone see that? We'll chant that now. Please look here. Om Namaha Bhagavate Nrsimhaya Namaha Tejaha Tejase Avihi Avirbhava Vajra Nakha Vajra Dangstra Karma Ashayan Randhaya Tamaha Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyishthaha Om Kshrom. Well, it's a bit difficult to chant together because it's not a verse. So I'll just chant it. This is Canto 5, Chapter 18, the residents of Jambudvip, offer prayers, text number 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Nrsimhaya Namaste Tejase Avir Bhava Vajranakha Vajradangstra Karma Shayan Randhaya Samograsa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyishta Om Shom. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimha, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance. so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Sanat Kumar speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu. Yat pada pankaja palasha velasa bhaktya karma shayangrathitam udgratayanti santaha tadvanna riktamatayo yatayo piruddha sroto ganas tamaran arnang bhajavasudevam. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet can very easily become free from hard knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the Gyanis and Yogis cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. End of quote. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to his fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus his strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsimha, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsimha killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsimha, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. When Srila Prabhupada was personally present, he was translating the Bhagavatam. And thus, gradually, one by one, volumes of the Bhagavatam were released. So I happened to be in London at the time when this volume was released, and the first copies, the advanced copies, went to our GBC members. So our GBC member at that time and place was Jayatirtha Prabhu, and he read this and he became inspired to immediately teach it to all the devotees. Probably on the strength of Srila Prabhupada's statement at the end of this purport, in which he states that any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires, which means those who aspire for pure devotional service, because pure devotional service means free of material desires. Prabhupada writes in the purport, unless one is completely freed of all material desires, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. So those who want to fully engage in the devotional service have to be free from material desires. Prabhupada writes, any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsimha or Prahlad Maharaj, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. So to fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord, devotees, those, especially those who are living in the temple, they're called full-time devotees, as distinguished from those who are not really part-time if their aim is to be fully Krishna conscious, but by the circumstance they're in, working in a job or whatever, doing some business, they're not able to be full-time in the service of the Lord. So in the temples, one should not lean on the pillar. In the temples, in the ashrams, one of the duties of the leaders is to keep everyone busy. Otherwise, it becomes a place for eating and sleeping. The temple is arranged, or the ashram is arranged that there's facility for eating and sleeping, but that's only to facilitate devotional service. If the purpose of the ashram becomes eating and sleeping, then it's no longer ashram. It's only vishram, which means resting. Vishramghar, place for a rest house. So everyone should be fully engaged in devotional service. However, even if one is busy from morning till night and only in devotional service and only rests simply to gain refreshment so that he can engage in devotional service, still it may not be that one is fully engaged in devotional service. You may say, well, how is that? All day busy? You're not fully engaged unless one is fully free of material desires. Still it's not full engagement. The body is engaged, but the mind may not be. So that may be the condition with many of us, or some of us, that we're engaged at least superficially in the service of the Lord, but the mind is engaged elsewhere. So we should pray to Lord Nrsimha Dev, who killed the otherwise unkillable Hiranyakashipu. No one could kill him. There was no one in the universe who could kill him. So Lord Nrsimha Dev, who is within the universe, he's also within the universe, but he doesn't generally manifest himself. He's not generally seen. Hiranyakashipu didn't believe that he could be seen. But Nrsimha Dev manifested himself because Prahlad Maharaj, his devotee, was being so much harassed by the personification of material desire. Prahlad Maharaj refused to compromise with Hiranyakashipu. So this is indicative also, just as Hiranyakashipu is the personification of material desire, so Prahlad Maharaj is the personification of spiritual desire. Even though he was, when we say personification, it means that his whole personality is an ideal example of one who is full of spiritual desire. So even though Prahlad was in the midst of material desires, he was in the midst of the atmosphere of material desires, his whole household was fully dedicated to material desire. There was no trace of any piety. In most households, they are dedicated to fulfilling material desire, but there is some piety. There's some worship of God. In the world, still probably today, most households, whether they're Buddhist, Christian or whatever, there's some, amidst all the major endeavor for fulfilling material desire, there's some recognition of God. Of course, that's also praying to Him for fulfilling material desire, which is cheating religion. But Prahlad, he had no material desire. He just, of course, it's said when Hiranyakashipu's killer, after Hiranyakashipu had been killed, Nrsimha Dev, by touching his hand to Prahlad's head, then Prahlad became free of material desire. But that can be understood that Prahlad may have felt like that, or definitely he felt purified by the touch of Nrsimha's hand, but it wasn't that Prahlad was impure. Again, we have to harmonize these statements. He didn't have material desires. Nrsimhadev doesn't personally appear to destroy those who are harassing devotees who are cultivating material desires. So definitely Prahlad was a pure devotee. More so than Brahma or any of the demigods who are present here. Prahlad is in a more exalted position. But it's said that he became free from material desires. But he himself is so pure that even in the midst of all opportunity for sense gratification, being urged to take up sense gratification, and then when that didn't work, being threatened with torture and death, but had not in the slightest bit interest in taking up sense gratification. Can you imagine? Most people couldn't imagine being in a situation where they're told that unless you enjoy this beautiful woman, unless you enjoy her, we'll torture you. So, well, you don't need to torture me. I'm running, I'm going, It's torture keeping me away from her. So, Prahlad is the personification of pure spiritual desire, and therefore his prayers are worth praying. He's praying to be free from material desire. It's very pertinent for all of us that he's praying to be free from material desire, even though he is free from material desire, but then he is free from material desire because he's praying to be free. If he wasn't praying to be free, then being in the midst of the material world, then he's likely to be victimized. If the jiva thinks, now I am pure, just like one of our godbrothers, I remember him saying, now I am free from desires for sense gratification. I have conquered Maya. And just by stating that, he was already fallen. But it took a little time to manifest, but he fell down from an exalted position in which he was being worshipped as a pure devotee, and he thought, well, I'm being worshipped as a pure devotee, I must be a pure devotee, I must be free of material desire. He didn't read these prayers of Prahlad and consider how Prahlad, who is certainly more exalted than any of us, I guess, don't want to insult anyone, but Prahlad is definitely a highly exalted devotee, and he has given the example to us of praying to Nrsimhadev to be free of material desire. The jiva is in the marginal position. We shouldn't think that Maya is someone to be laughed at. That, Maya, I'm free from Maya. Very dangerous to think like this. So for most of us, it's not a question of being free from Maya and praying to be always protected by Nrsimhadev. It's more the case of that we are aspiring to be free of material desire. Therefore we pray to Nrsimha that just as Hiranyakashipu was impossible to conquer by anyone else, I cannot conquer Maya. Maya is stronger than me, but you are stronger than Maya. Therefore, if I take shelter of you, you can very easily vanquish Maya, which I cannot do. It's not within my power. What can we do against Maya? You were saying yesterday, she has 10 hands. Prabhupada mentioned in one place, there's the 10 hands, she has 10 weapons, all fit for killing demons, such as the Mahish Asura. She killed so many. She's killed so many demons. But Krishna, she is the servant of Krishna. She cannot stand even, she's so shy before Krishna. Vilajjamana, a woman is shy, so she's shy. She doesn't go before Krishna, she stands behind Krishna. So she's completely subservient to Krishna. So Krishna, if we take shelter of him, then we can be free from material desires. Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Maya is very difficult to overcome, but if we surrender to Krishna, we can easily cross beyond it. Nrsimha Dev is Krishna. We specifically pray to Nrsimha to destroy the very nasty material desires. It's like Hiranyakashipu was very nasty. We can pray to Krishna, Gopinath. We can pray to him, to Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays to Gopinath to vanquish material desires. But generally devotees, they pray to Nrsimha Dev, who is none different, of course, from Krishna. But particularly this form is who we pray to for vanquishing those desires which block our devotional service. Over and above that, Nrsimha Dev himself can bestow, or he does bestow, pure devotional service. It's not just that he's killing the demons of material desires, but he also bestows pure devotional service. So we pray to him for that. Now his form appears to be very horrible. Actually, lion, if you see the form of a lion, it looks. He's called the king of the animals, or the king of the jungle. The lion looks quite aristocratic, looks quite distinguished. Among animals, some are ugly, like the camel is ugly. The orangutan is an ugly animal. Humans, they can be good looking or not good looking. On this planet, in this age, mostly not very good looking. But among animals, the lion looks very distinguished, especially the lion, more than the lioness. With the lion with his mane. What's the Darwinian explanation of the lion's mane? Any idea? I kept quiet about that one. So it looks very distinguished and very beautiful, but if we come in front of a lion in the wild, it's very frightening, because the lion looks at us. He doesn't look to see whether we're good looking or not good looking. He looks food. We may hope that the lion is not hungry, but generally if the lion's out, he's hungry. Otherwise he's a lazy bum, he lies at home and doesn't do much. In fact, usually it's the lioness who goes to hunt, not the lion. He's just combing his hair, looking nice. But anyway, if we come across a lion, it's very frightening. In Bhuvaneshwar, once in 1977, Prabhupada, Samara, they took him to the zoo, and there was a lion in a cage it must be very frustrating for a lion to be in a cage. He's like, the king, he knows he's the king. Everyone's afraid of him. And he's just kept in some cage, and people go, they poke things at him. So one devotee saw the lion and was teasing the lion. People, they do that. They think, just see, it's a lion. He can kill me, but now as long as he's in the cage, so I'm safe. Prabhupada told that devotee, Gargamuni, don't tease. After all, he is a lion. So it's very, very fearsome. If somehow that cage was to, evaporate, then there'd be a change of roles. The lion is a very fearsome animal. But Prahlad wasn't afraid because he's a pure devotee. One who doesn't have material desires has nothing to fear from anything. Because fear, that's the condition of this material world. In the spiritual world, there's no fear. The cowherd boys who were with Krishna, they saw Aghasura holding his mouth open. And they just walked in. They weren't afraid. It seems like a completely stupid thing to do. They had no fear. Because they thought, Krishna's here. We have nothing to fear. They were fearless. But everyone except Prahlad was fearful. Anyone who has material desires, they cannot see the form of Nrsimha Deva without feeling fearful. We can only imagine how fearful he was. I mean, Hiranyakashipu himself was fearful enough. Demons, they like to give fear to others. Real Kshatriyas, they protect from fear. They protect good citizens from fear. But demons, they take pleasure in giving fear to others. That's one of their pleasures. You can see, I don't know in this country, but in the West there are bullies. They're like big, strong boys, and they take pleasure in just torturing smaller boys. Or sometimes the older brother does that with the younger brother, just tortures him, and then makes him subservient. And takes pleasure in dominating and lording over him. So, those who have material desires, they must be fearful. Hiranyakashipu had material desires, but he had become fearless because he thought he has nothing to fear. I'm the strongest, I'm in charge, I'm in control. No one can do anything to me. And even when Nrsimha appeared before him, he still thought, I'm invincible. No one can vanquish me. He thought he was protected by his own bodily strength and by Brahma's benediction. But he didn't realize that Krishna's first of all, he's more powerful than Brahma, and he can defy Brahma's benediction. But Nrsimha Deva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's also very clever. So he was able to break or step outside all of the conditions that Brahma set, that Hiranyakashipu craved, that I will not be killed in the day. Hiranyakashipu prayed, I will not be killed in the day or night. So he was killed in the twilight. It's neither day or night. I will not be killed by any man, demigod, or human being. So Nrsimha Deva, anyway, he's neither a man, a demigod, or a human being, but he took a form that could not be said to be a man, a demigod, or a human being. If you see the form Nrsimha, is he a human? Well, if you look from the feet up, yeah, okay. Get to the knees, and get to up to the waist, and then from there up, it's not. I never saw a human like that before. That's not a human. And if you look at from the head, he's not a human. He's an animal. Is he an animal? Well, look down. No, you're not an animal. It's not. Looks like a lion. Is he a lion or is he an animal? A lion or a human? He's not a lion or a human. That means he's not an animal and not a human. So he's outside the benediction of Brahma. Then he should not be killed in any of the 12 months. So that's it, you're safe. Wait a minute, there's a 13th month. Came in the Purushottam Mas. Actually today is Chaturdashi and Purnima mixed. So you can't be said to be fully Chaturdashi or Purnima, specifically today. So Who knows? It might have been one of those also. If he said, I cannot be killed on Amavasya, Pratipad, Dvitiya, Tritiya, or any of these days, then is this Chaturdashi today? Someone could say, today's Purnima. Someone says, is it Purnima today? Today's Chaturdashi. So what is it? It's not clear. So like this, he should not be killed either inside or outside. Very clever, Hiranyakashipu. Thought of all the conditions. I mean, one of them should have been enough. He cannot be killed by any man, animal, or demigod. That should be enough. But just to cover himself, not inside or outside. He's neither inside nor outside. He's in the porch or the veranda, which you can neither say it's inside, nor is it outside. Then he should not be killed in the land, the sky, or the water. He was killed on the lap of Nrsimha Dev. Should not be killed by any weapon. Well, he was killed by the nails of Nrsimha Dev. That's not specifically a weapon. So, in this way, Nrsimha Dev was more clever than Hiranyakashipu. We may think we are more clever than Krishna. We can get away. We'll be great devotees and at the same time have our sense gratification. And Krishna is more clever. Cannot be cheated. Hiranyakashipu thought he would cheat the laws of nature. He thought he would get away with it. The laws are set up, but I will I'll flout them. But that in itself was foolishness. Because if he sees there are laws and they are set up, that means that there's a cosmic control. It means a cosmic controller. He was an atheist. He didn't recognize. He didn't have that much. He had enough intelligence to break the laws, but not enough intelligence to think that, well, if there are laws, there must be a lawmaker, a law enforcer. So in this way, Hiranyakashipu was the prototype demon. All demons up to the present age are simply following in the footsteps of Hiranyakashipu and being killed, if not directly by Nrsimha Dev, but through Nrsimha Dev in the form of time, kills them all. In material nature, kills them. So, Nrsimha Dev, when we think of him, we should think of him, always. Nrsimha, always pray to Nrsimha. Prabhupada established this, that regularly sing, calling out to Nrsimha Dev within our ISKCON. That was originally instituted when Prabhupada was apparently sick in the 1960s. In the early books, that Handbook of Krishna Consciousness, the prayers to Lord Nrsimha are written. Prayers for the protection of the spiritual master. But we didn't realize that it's not that Prabhupada needs protection, we need protection. So these prayers are prayed, this Namaste Nrsimhaya Prahlada Dayane. These from Nrsimha Purana, they're recorded in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would enter the temple of Jagannath daily, he would enter in Puri, he would enter and just go past the deity of Nrsimha within Jagannath temple, and he would offer these prayers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also daily offering prayer to Nrsimha Dev. Actually, Nrsimha Tattva is a very big subject, how he's... although we see with Krishna, he has so many devotees and so many leelas, but with Nrsimha Dev, there's only this leela of him with Prahlad is famous, although there are many, many leelas of Krishna and Rama, but still Nrsimha is counted as one of the important avatars of the Lord. Important in that all of them are important, but some are, even within the appearances of the Supreme Lord, there are gradations. So, Nrsimha, Krishna, Rama, Nrsimha, and of course the Gauriyas also recognize the most important of all, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But all these are very important. All of the avatars appear for the benefit of the world, but Krishna especially, he gave the Bhagavad-gita and he performed many wonderful pastimes and delivered many devotees. And Rama also performed extensive pastimes and delivered many devotees. So these Krishna and Rama are considered more important because all the avatars come for the sake of their devotees to uplift the devotees. But Krishna and Ram especially uplifted many, many devotees. But with Nrsimhadev we only see Prahlad. We don't see any others. But even now, we can pray to Nrsimha and he particularly helps us to be free from material desires and thus enter into pure devotional service. So Nrsimha in and of himself is fully worshipable, even by those who are completely free from material desires. They take pleasure in hearing about Hiranyakashipu's killer, Nrsimha. Prahlad is full of pleasure. He was very happy to see Hiranyakashipu killed by Nrsimha. It's not that he became miserable, but he became delighted. Oh, my Lord has come. He wasn't, whether Hiranyakashipu was alive or dead was not a matter to him. He wasn't in the slightest bit disturbed by Hiranyakashipu's presence. But he was very happy to see that Nrsimha came. Even though it's a terrible form. Generally the devotees, they worship very beautiful forms. That's stated in the beginning of Bhagavatam. That one should not worship the terrible forms of the demigods. Even if you worship demigods, don't worship the Gaura Rupa. Not that like Kali, they're very horrible forms. But Nrsimha appears to be a very horrible form. He's angry and covered with blood, spattered with blood, and garlanded with intestines. It's gruesome it's fully gruesome. But devotees, they worship that form of the anger of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is famous for playing on his flute. The same Krishna is so angry that he's ripping out the intestines of Hiranyakashipu. That anger, when the Supreme Lord gets angry, who can imagine? What is the extent of that anger? That anger that at the end of the time of the cosmic manifestation, Ananta, he becomes angry that all these jivas, they're not, what's wrong? They're not serving I'm serving him. Why aren't they serving him? We've been trying for a whole life of Brahma to get them to serve him, and they still won't serve him. He becomes so angry and he burns up the whole universe. So his anger is directed against all the conditioned souls, but that same Supreme Lord came with full, we just can't even imagine his anger. And that all that anger is concentrated on one person. Hiranyakashipu, he got the mercy of the Supreme Lord. That's why Narad Muni says, actually the demons, they're better off because they have the most intense feeling toward the Lord. And they get an intense reaction. Hiranyakashipu wasn't afraid of anyone. Eventually he did become afraid of Nrsimha. He closed his eyes and that fear which he hadn't experienced, suddenly he knew he was going to die. So we will feel fear if a lion If we're just walking in the jungle and the lion comes, of course that used to be quite common in India, lions and tigers. Braja Hari Prabhu, ISKCON Jew, told me he used to walk to school through the tigers in the forest. So he would chant Ram's name all the way. He was told, how can you walk safely to school? You chant Ram, Ram, Ram continuously as you go through the forest. You'll be all right. So he survived all those years. So definitely it's frightful if you see a tiger or a lion, you're alone in the forest. But there was Hiranyakashipu with Nrsimha Dev, was so fully concentrated. It's like he'd forgotten Lakshmi, he'd forgotten all the devotees, just fully, all of Nrsimha's energy was fully concentrated on Hiranyakashipu. That's a lot of mercy. Of course, that's not the best way to get the mercy. And we shouldn't aspire for that. If we think, well, it's too difficult being a devotee, why don't I just be a demon and then I'll get Krishna's mercy also? But we're not capable of being such demons as Hiranyakashipu. I mean, even Hitler and Stalin, we heard the other day, we heard the glories of Stalin, but, they're nothing compared to Hiranyakashipu. He was such a demon. I mean, he was a really very bad person. That's an understatement. What words are there? He was so inimical to Vishnu. I mean, he actually knew of Vishnu, but he hated him. The very sound of the word Vishnu, he would hate that. Just like that said of, himself he said, this Maricha, the demon who took the form of the deer. He told Ravana that whenever I hear a word beginning with Ra, I immediately feel afraid. I think they're going to say Rama. He was so like that. If anyway, this Hiranyakashipu, just this, you might say Vishesha, and Vish, immediately get Vish, say Vishnu. It's not stated, but I'm just imagining here. He hated deeply Vishnu. He'd made all arrangements for his material happiness, all arrangements. He kept Indra alive. It's more fun to keep him alive, so he could see him squirming. As stated by Prahlad in these prayers, that the demigods, my father, even by moving his eyebrows, the demigods would be afraid. And so Hiranyakashipu liked that. He liked to see, here's this Indra, he went through all these lifetimes performing all these austerities to become Indra, so pious, and I've just kicked him out, and he's just afraid of me. So Hiranyakashipu loved that, keeping the demigods all in fear. What was I talking about? I lost my track. So, he was a great demon. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say. No, I lost my track. Anyway.
Nobody is so today. There's no demon. So
yeah, that was something I was going to say. I lost it. Anyway, something else. Maybe I hadn't mentioned that. So he kept the demons just so he could delight in seeing them squirm. He was a bully. He could have killed them, but he just kept them in fear of him. So, he himself, he knew no fear. But when Nrsimha Dev came, then he knew fear. So devotees, they become fearless at the lotus feet of Krishna, Abhay Charan. But that should not be, they should be very careful. Not to think that, well, now I'm a devotee, and so I can play with Maya. We should know that Maya is always ready to play with us, even though we don't notice it, we don't recognize it. Maya doesn't give up on us. We may think, I'm a good devotee, already taken sannyas, and I must be a pure devotee. And already when you think like that, Maya's already caught us. As soon as we think we're free from Maya, it's the proof that Maya has caught us. So devotees are fearless because they take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, but they always remember, I'm in a very dangerous situation. So, iha sangsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murari. This material world is very difficult to cross, so we always pray to Murari, killer of the demon, Mura, that you protect me, save me, maintain me. So we can remember on this day, especially. Every day we remember, but especially these days are for remembering Nrsimha Chaturdashi, the day he appeared. I'm not exactly sure how that works out because it was in the heavenly planets that Nrsimha appeared. So their day scale is different to ours. The scene of that pastime is also said to be in Ahobilam, not so far from here. So that can be understood as a representation of on this earth of the pastime that took place in the heavenly planets, where Nrsimha Dev appeared. And there's so much to say about Nrsimha. Does anyone else want to say anything? Any realizations about Lord Nrsimha Dev? There's also the 1,000 names of Lord Nrsimha. We could spend the whole day going through that, discussing it. His appearance is in the hottest time of year. He's hot. And it's very hot. There's no air conditioning here. So we can become cool by remembering Nrsimha Dev. He's hot. But the blazing fire of material existence, we can be delivered by remembering Nrsimha Dev. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra shushitala jai chayai jagata jurai. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are more cooling than millions of moons, and the whole universe can be cooled at the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, his Leela is connected with Nrsimha. In Navadvip, once at the house of Srivas, he asked Srivas to recite Vishnu Sahasranama. So near the beginning, just among the first names are the names of Nrsimha. Of course, they're all in the same names of Nrsimha, but particularly Nrsimha Vapu. And immediately Lord Chaitanya he got Nrsimha Avesh. He became full of the mood of Nrsimha and ran in the street with the mood of Nrsimha. And he is Nrsimha. So people, when they saw him, I mean, someone may act in a drama, Nrsimha, and they may feel that angry mood, but when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just forgot that he's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his Leela Shakti, and he became filled with the mood of Nrsimha. He is actually Nrsimha. So he was in an angry mood and he was looking for some demons. And people saw him on the street and they all ran away. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him and became sorry, because in this Leela, he doesn't kill the demons, otherwise there'd be no one left. In Kali Yuga, everyone's demoniac, more or less. So then he came back and said to Srivas, it's very bad. To make people fearful, it's very bad. And Srivas said, no, anyone who saw you in that form, they were certainly delivered from material existence. So in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he visited so many temples of Nrsimha when he was traveling throughout South India. It's Ahobilam and this Simhachalam is specifically mentioned. He spent 4 months in Sri Rangam, so definitely he must have been visiting the Nrsimha temple, which is there. Mangalagiri is also mentioned. Yeah. There are so many famous temples of Nrsimha, especially in, here in, please don't lean on the pillar. Here in what is now called Tamil Nadu, that we mentioned in Sri Rangam, there is in bigger famous temples of Nrsimha. Sholangur is there, and it's one of the Sholingur. Yeah, so that is one of the Divya Deshams near Chennai. In Kanchi, also. In Kanchi, there's the Nrsimha temple is there. Others in Tamil Nadu, in Madurai, there's Yoga Nrsimha there, but in Andhra Pradesh especially there are many. That Simachalam is already mentioned, and Yadgiri Gota. It's not one of the Divya Deshams, but it's near Hyderabad, and it's very famous among the Telugu people. Mangalagiri is also mentioned. There are many on the way up in the north of Andhra. There's one. And near the border of Tamil Nadu, there's also a temple of Yoga Nrsimha facing out to the sea. I went there near Sulurpeta, I believe it is. I went there once, years ago. Yeah, well, we're going state by state, so give us a chance and we'll get over to Karnataka. Sorry, I know you're from Karnataka. So there's Yoga Nrsimha. He's facing out, it's near the sea, it's facing out to sea, and he said that many ships that were in danger, like in some storm, and then they came within range of Yoga Nrsimha, and they were saying very peaceful Nrsimha. That's also one of the forms. Ugram Vera Mahavishnu Jwalantam Saravato Mokam Nrsingham Vishanam Radam Mrityu Mittanam. So those are some of the names. There are various forms of Nrsimha. That one is that the Yoga Nrsimha is very famous. Ugra Nrsimha is famous. Who will worship Ugra Nrsimha? Not for everyone. It's not allowed for Grihastas to worship him. Not allowed. The Grihastas, they'll be afraid to take him in their home because he'll burn up all their material happiness. You can't. So actually Grihastas should be free from material desires also. Prahlad is making this prayer. He's a Grihasta. So it's not that, material enjoyment that's allowed for Grihastas. Maybe, just about. But actually no material enjoyment. For devotees there's no material enjoyment. What is that? Dhamma viruddho kamosmi. What is it? Kama viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Even sex is not supposed to be material enjoyment. If it's supposed to be done according to religious principles. That, Krishna says, that desire, that sex, that is me. So actually Grihastas, they're also not supposed to have material enjoyment. But they're very afraid of Ugra Nrsimha. Our Ugra Nrsimha is there in Mayapur, but he's not Ugra. He's only pretending to be Ugra. He's Ugra for the non-devotees, but then for the devotees, he's, as is stated, Sridhar Swami in his commentaries makes that statement that the lioness is very fearful, but to her cubs, she's very the cubs, they think, oh, very nice, my mother. So, like that, for devotees, Nrikesari, or the Supreme Lord in the form of half man, half lion, he's not frightening. They don't feel it. The lion cubs don't feel afraid. So the devotees, they don't feel afraid. So devotees, they become very happy to see the form. We keep the form, which is Nrsimha Chaturdashi. We could have put the picture of Lakshmi Nrsimha. But no, there's Prahlad Nrsimha in Mayapur. He has come there. Anyway, there are so many things to be said. They should be said. We should always glorify Lord Nrsimha. Anyone else want to add anything?
this mantra, Om Gram Viram Mahavishnu,
Yeah, Ugram Viram Mahavishnu.
given by Lord Brahma from Lord Nrsimha, like
It's given by Lord Brahma, Ugram Viram, yeah.
Like in this kalpa, Lord Krishna is like main personality, but it said in previous kalpa that Lord Nrsimha is the main personality, and that he gave this mantra to Lord Brahma, like in this is Kamagatri. So this is like in previous.
It sounds quite esoteric.
That's why
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm not aware of that. So I won't comment on esoteric topics of which I'm not aware.
the point is was that like in previous kalpa, Lord Nrsimha is main.
In
like,
previous kalpas
kalpa
or yugas,
creation, or yuga.
in previous yugas, the main form of the Lord who was worshipped was Nrsimha.
Yeah, like that.
Maybe. Of course, in general, Vaishnavas, they worship Vishnu. Of course, all these things, they need to be researched also. And we may not understand also. Just like Krishna, we don't find the name much in the Vedas. But he is the object of all the Vedas. So, the Vedas, they may not directly declare what their purpose is very loudly or very clearly.